Hey, so we're now going to talk about lifts and headers and what that means when you're racing and what you're on the course. So right now here's our race course, and here's the main direction of the wind and our windward mark. So what you're saying when you set this course is that most of the wind coming down is going to be going in the same direction. It's all going to be shooting down the course at about this angle. So your green boat can't sail directly into the wind, can sail about 45 degrees to the wind this way, and your blue boat's going to be able to sail about 45 degrees to the wind that way. Both boats are about equally close to the mark and have equal chance of getting there. However, the wind is not uniform at all, and puffs, which are another word for a lot of wind kind of in little patches, are all over the course. Now you can tell that a puff is approaching because it's a darker patch of water. But in addition to just having more power in them, these puffs also actually have a directional shift. So maybe the wind in this puff is blowing this way. What this means is if this green boat sails into the puff, all of a sudden they're facing into irons because the bow of their boat is pointing straight into the wind that's in front of them. So they're going to need to bear off 45 degrees from this wind shift in order to keep sailing. Your blue boat, by contrast, if they're sailing like this and hit a puff, all of a sudden they're sailing at a beam reach because the wind's coming over perpendicularly to their boat. So this blue boat can head up, is now sailing 45 degrees to this wind, and if both boats sail, the blue boat's going to get to that mark a lot quicker than the green boat. So the blue boat in that instance was sailing a lift from the puff, and a green boat was sailing a header. The important thing to know is that headers and lifts are the same thing. It just depends on what side of the puff you're on. So when you approach a puff, you're first going to figure out whether or not it's a header or lift based on your jib. So if your jib starts luffing, it means you're too close to the wind and you're in a header. When you're in a header, you have two options. You can either bear off and keep sailing, which you might choose to do because you want to go over here and get to ley line and tack, but you know that you're covering more distance. Or you notice your sail is starting to luff and that you're not pointing close to the mark, and so you can choose to tack. And then if you tack, you can sail up into the mark. It kind of depends on the situation whether or not that's what you want to do. When you notice a puff of wind and it's hitting your sail, and all of a sudden maybe your sails start to get really full and you start to heel over, you might realize that you're on a lift, in which case you can hike the boat flat and see if you can keep heading up as much as you can until that jib starts to luff, and then bear off just slightly and keep sailing. So you always want to be watching that jib and what it's doing. If it's starting to luff, you usually need to make the decision whether to bear off, pull in your sail, or tack. And that's headers and lifts. The important thing is realizing them with the kids, but then there's a different level on the water where they're actually noticing them on the water and making tactical decisions about, I want to tack now because I know I'm in a header. So I've found it's really helpful when you ask the girls when they tacked, why did you just tack there? What was your reasoning? Or if you notice they're in a patch of wind, ask them, are you in a header or a puff, or a header or a lift? Seeing if they're able to pick up on the fact that their direction is changing in the greater scheme of where the buoys are and where the course is.